Alright, and welcome back to Let's Clone. My name would be Stephen French, and I went way the hell into the weeds with this one. I ended up watching some videos on some other Godot developers, and this guy had a really cool state machine going on. So I destroyed everything I had, and I tried to emulate that state machine and an animation machine, and shit's finally working, but it has taken a while. I'm gonna first just launch the game and record off my phone. I can also pop it up here. Yeah, like, come on. All right, so it's loading there. It all works up here, but I like the phone version. So I can still walk around. I have a Survivor IO styled, um, I guess, cooldown, where after the cooldown fills up, then you attack. Right now you're shooting a little bow, and the bullets appear on top of the GUI, but whatever. I got these little mobs that are flashing around. I'll put a link in the description for where I got the animations, the assets for the character, and for the blobs, and for the background tiles. There are no collisions yet. Things aren't hitting me, but as you can see, when I kill something, they die. They drop these little gems, and a la Survivor, I can go pick them up. We do have a pause, which joystick's still going. Pause turns into a play, and we can play it. And then probably the last thing that I got going on new is when you level up, it forces the game into a pause. That's going to prompt the screen for you to adjust your stats or choose your items. For now, you just unpause it. But the rolling works, or rather the dodging. Um, yeah, I'm pretty thrilled with it. It's been a lot of fun so far. I need to do a lot still, but in this video, I want to break down the changes I made to the state machine and how that talks with the animation machine. I think it ended up being kind of clever. It still has some tweaks that I can improve on, I guess, but I don't know. It's going pretty well. Let me close this down and we'll dive into it. Everything's changed. I've added a lot of stuff. I did animation. I'll have videos covering, I guess, each of the parts as I go on, but I'm not gonna be writing it out again each time now that the project's just getting a little bit bigger. Um, I'm mostly just using this as an excuse to learn Godot, and Survivor was the last mobile game I guess that I was playing a lot of, so it was pretty fun. Yeah, well, let's keep going. On the last time we learned that the adding the joystick to the canvas layer kept it on the screen. That was pretty brilliant. I now have the GUI, got the GUI element in there that's for graphical user interface stuff, like the bar on top. Right now I'm just drawing a bunch of circles and rectangles and color them in. I'm not actually using any sprite elements. And we have a pause button. It's kind of fun to learn how buttons work. It's pretty simple. But we're not caring about those. Big change that I made, something that I really liked with the other guy's project, is that he pretty much took each scene and made it into its own resource folder. That's really nice because my enemy, I can, when I'm on my enemy and I go to make this, whoa, what's this guy? Don't worry about it. I go to make this scene, then I make the script and I save the script. It's now just saving in the same folder. Before you would get that prompt pop up and you'd have to tell it where you wanted to save and it would be somewhere different. And I don't like that. It's just a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. Each scene has an asset folder for what it's looking at, all the goods. So yeah, that changed a lot. But here we got the player. We got the animation files, or the animation state. No, the animation machine, which is all this jargon. We'll go over some of it, most of it. We got the assets, which is grabbed from link in the description. I'll probably bring up the page here if I remember to. Pretty great, pretty cute little asset pack. And then the state machine. Now all I have is my cooldown bar, which I don't think we had before, but we can ignore. It's just a big old mess because again I'm just drawing everything with rectangles. I didn't use sprites. Um, don't worry about it. No, don't worry about that. We don't need this anytime soon. We got the player and we got the player scene. And here we have our young little player scene. What is that? Wow. Well, I don't know. I'm not at all certain as to what I did here. Well, well, who knew? Who knew? Something changed. I'm not actually using the collision boxes very much yet. A player can't take damage, so we're gonna ignore that. That never happened. But you can see in here, I do not have my animation state. I don't know why I chose. Oh, I do know why I chose to do it this way. I didn't add them to the player. I added them to the player in the game scene. Bam! Now you got them. The reason I did that is well, I don't know if I'll stick to it. I don't know if it's worth it. I was passing a signal from the joystick to directly to the player, and I was doing everything just inside of a thick ass player script But now I'm actually passing the joystick information to the state manager. So I needed it to be in the same scene tree. I might change that later on. I got no idea. We've got a neat type of communication between the state and the animations. Let's actually go one step back. The player script. This has shrunk down a decent amount. I am on ready. I am creating my animation sprite, which is, why do I close everything? Which is this guy that has all these. I'm creating a state manager reference and an animation manager reference, which is just pointing to those scene files. The player is always paying attention to his target direction. It was just a little bit easier than passing it back and forth. I don't know if I keep it there. A lot of this is all subject to change or not, because I'm only doing the project to learn. I've got on ready, we are initializing both of our machines. We'll look into that later. On process, I'm checking the move vector of my state machine, which is being all handled by itself. If it does exist, meaning that I am receiving input from the joystick, then I'm changing my target direction to match that. This way, when I stop moving, the target direction doesn't just turn into a 0, 0. It was something I noticed before. We can actually go look at really quick. Something I goofed up in the past, in the previous video. My joystick. In the process, I even saw the line here, nice. I was emitting the signal every frame. So even if there was nothing going on with the joystick, I was still passing information. It's probably not that detrimental, but I didn't like that it was doing it. So we got rid of it. I'm now passing information if I am not pressed, meaning like I've picked up my thumb. I pass information letting me know that I have stopped or whatever I need to do in the event that I've done the dodge roll. And then if I'm dragging, no matter what, I'm updating it so I can always get the movement to be up to date. So that seemed like a reasonable decision for me. Yeah, we'll save that. So here, updating our target. Now I'm in my process event, so every frame I am running a localized process event for the state manager, not the animation manager. That gets handled elsewhere. And then I'm updating my position based on whatever the state manager chooses my movement vector is. So my move vector in my state manager, if that is 0, I am not updating my target, and then I'm just doing 0 times delta, so I'm not moving my position at all. Very nice. Game object. Let's see, did I change this at all? Spawning players for a little while, spawning loot just for practice. I've added the pause script. It is now a function on the game that's being passed in from the button, but you can call it from anywhere, so we can just pause the game from anywhere. Get rid of that. Yeah, this is all pretty similar, except for the level up is it's nothing fancy. It's actually pretty crappy, but it works. I'm just collecting XP and I'm remembering what XP I had when I got the last level, so I can do an interpolation across the bar at the top. That's nothing. I can when I make it work better, I'll do a video more on that. Yeah, so game state or game scene hasn't changed a whole lot. All right, now into the depths of the goods. Should we start with the state manager? Yeah, why not? We'll start with state and then we'll go into animation. They kind of talk back and forth a bit, which I thought was kind of clever, and that's what took me like a week to fucking figure out. So maybe that was a bad idea. Who knows? State. So we're in our state manager scene. We don't need to listen to player anymore. We'll remember the player. We have a state manager. We've got a few different state types, and I have a state base. Both of my machines have a base that, in a way, like I'm gonna do more with these when I extrapolate more information out of each state. This is where I want like the general, like no matter what state I'm in, this shit should run. That's typically what I would do here. It's changed a lot. I wouldn't worry about it. I might not need this. My move, return vector. Oh yeah. So pretty much how this works is my state manager is going to be calling the move function on whatever the current state is. So say I'm in idle, my state manager is going to be calling move on idle. If we look at idle, it has a move function. It has its check state. It's got the exit and the enter. Here on the enter, all that means is when I get to this state, which is an extension of base state, if I trigger a dot function, then that will trigger whatever's inside of the actual state, or inside of the base of the state. This is going to be confusing spot. See, it's doing nothing because I'm just passing enter from idle to base, and it's doing nothing. But I imagine at some point there's something I'll need to do every time I enter this state. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not. So right now it's just there for just in cases. Usually I used to have an exit for the same purpose, but now I'm not, it's just not there anymore. You're gonna have to deal with it. But on move, we're not moving when we are not moving when we are in idle. Oh, we're gonna step back another second. This is all over the place. We're scrambling our brains. That's fine. When my player, which is now fucking lost. Yeah. So when my player on the ready, he initializes. We're not going to worry about animation right now. Just state. I init and I pass myself. I pass the player node or player scene itself into the state manager.idle, not .idle.init. I'm only going to make this worse. So on init, we're passing in a player, and I'm creating this local variable, and I'm just storing what the player is. It's just get parent. That's fine. Want to do that? I don't know why I did that. I should have just done that. Which it probably shouldn't be called player. It should probably be called parent. But you know what? Suck it. So we are getting access to our player, so we can pay attention to what it is. We can pass information back and forth as long as we need it. We are then setting our current state to it's just an enumerator. We're just setting it to base state idle, which is resulting in this file. When we are on our state machine, it's saying that when current state is equal to this jargon, it's actually equal to this file right here. That's all that's doing. After init, it's not going to trigger this because nothing's told it to. If we're not walking, we're not doing this, but on process, we're going to run this every time. If we have a current state, if it's not set to null, meaning pretty much if init has been triggered, then we're good to go. Then we're going to do all the process stuff. If for some reason it's set to null, we're going to ignore it. It's kind of helpful. We are updating our move vector based on our current state.move. This is where we're first dipping into our init function. So we're going to look at current state.move, and we're passing it in what we've saved from the joystick output. I know it kind of sucks, but that is just where we are. Don't worry about it. So idle, we're triggering move. I'm not using dodge at all, so I'm ignoring it. We have a boolean for moving, which I don't know why it has an underscore. It just does. I probably could do it make more sense if I did is moving. And then we did a young copy and a paste and a paste and a paste. Now everything's fine. We're all up to date. So if we are moving, is moving is true. Duh. If we're not moving, it's false. It's brilliant. We don't need to worry about dodge, so suck it, dodge. And then we're returning a vector 0 because, otherwise, yeah, at the end of this, we're returning a vector 0 because we're in the idle state. We don't want to be moving. We're not running check state yet, but we're going to come back to there. State manager now has an updated move vector, which, since it's idle, is just a vector.0, which is just a vector 2, parentheses 0, 0 for the x and the y. Now I'm checking if the new state is equal to the current state.check state. So we're jumping back into idle, we're running check state. If is moving, something that we've initialized and potentially updated, well, I guess we did update. If it is moving, then we're going to bounce over to the walk animation. If it is not, then we're going to stay null. If it gets a null, it just keeps on going. So that's the kind of beauty of how this guy works. So now I'm saying that if it is not null, we got something to do. We got to change our state. We're calling change state, new state. So we're changing into our new state. It's just the attack trigger. It's independent. So we're coming up into our change state. If we have a current state, we're going to run its exit. You can see, as again, I don't have an exit down here, but all of the others do. So as long as they have it here, it'll give me an issue. If I don't, say exit didn't have nothing, then it would give me an error. Right? Because it's trying to run exit, but exit doesn't exist. But if my base has an exit, exiting, then it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't care. So it can be in either one. We can have it in the parent. We can have it in the base. We're good either way. Back to here. So change state. We run the exit. Not doing anything with it, but it's there. Now, every time we change the state, we also want to change the animation. So we're going to come back to this later, but that's what's happening here. We're just communicating between the two, and there's going to be an instance where we talk back in the other direction. But okay, we'll get to that. Now I'm setting my current state equal to this enumerator at whatever I've passed in as a new state, which if we had walked, that's now walk. So we're now going to be looking at this file. And then we're going to enter the new file. So let's go into our walk, enter it, enter calls the base walk, or base enter, it does nothing. So we're fine, we're coming back. But we are now in a new process, or a new state. we call it the walk state. It's for walking around, some would say. Now we are done running all the code for everything else. We come back to our player's process file, and then we're going to be updating that again, yada yada, hasn't happened yet. Running our process. Now we're in our manager, we run our process. We're going to be running the move on the now current state, which happens to be my walk state. Walk, move. I did this again. Is it still saved to what it was? Haha. It is moving. It is moving. It is moving. It is moving. And then here I'm going to say fucking is dodging because we have intellectual consistency. Yeah. So now if move is real, is moving is equal to true. Same thing we're doing for idle. And then I'm going to return move times speed. Speed local to the walk state, because if I had, say, a run state, or when we look at my dodge state, each state has its own speed. I want it to be self-contained as much as it can be. So I'm just updating my vectors, and yeah, this doesn't know how to jump like straight to idle, I don't think. Well, I guess it does. Like I'm defining is moving to false, and that'll do something later on. And if we are moving, then we're setting it to true. And then I'm defining as dodging to false, and then if we're dodging, we're going to set it to true. That's all fine. But then no matter what, we're returning a vector to 0. Why? How am I walking? Oh, yeah, because this only happens if these fail. So yeah, we've returned, if we're walking, we're returning the move speed. Otherwise, I want to stop and then let dodge take over or idle take over. So yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Come back into our manager. We now have an updated move vector at wherever the hell we're trying to go. We are going to check the state. So we're going to walk. We're going to check the state. If I'm dodging, blammo, just turn into a dodge. If I'm not moving, go to idle. If we're just moving, if everything else is kosher, then we're just going to stay null. We're going to keep on listening to this input. Come on back to our manager, check for our attack cooldown, all that. It's neat stuff. Now let's say in walk, we flick that stick. If dodging is true, dodging is true. We come into the check state. If dodging, we're changing it into dodge. So now we're going to our manager. We are not null, so we're creating a new state. This state on enter, dodge, surprise, surprise, actually does something. Holy shit, I forgot about that. Okay, yeah, this is just because I'm using duration or underscore dir as a countdown, and I didn't feel like having a dir and like a duration and then a duration default to like snap it back to. So all I'm doing is every time I enter, I set it to 20, and when we run our check state, we're subtracting 1 every time. When it's in 0, we're done. So I used to do a distance based on how long I want the dodge to be. Now it's a time based on just 20 cycles. If we haven't hit that yet, we're null, so that's fine. In our move, this is kind of garbage, but get parent.input dodge. Input dodge should be this. Let's see if that works. Because this used to be move, but we're not using it, so we're underscoring it, so we don't get that error. And then if we are dodging, I did some weird things for this. It's fine. Yeah, that was silly. Ignore it. Yeah, when we run that there, update the move vector with our .move function, and we just take the dodge, the direction that we've been dodging in, which has been normalized through the joystick, and then we multiply it by how fast we want to go, which is blazingly fast, and whoa, that's how you get a bug. And then yeah, we come back into our manager, we come back into our check state, our dodge. If we've reached our limit, we're good, and we stop. All those states, idle, walk, dodge, it used to be called roll, whatever. They're all pretty similar in how they work. They have their own condition as to how to turn themselves off, and then they're good. Now let's say in our manager, our attack cooldown has triggered, and our current state.name is not dodge, because that was kind of bugging me out. Like if I tried to swipe and then to dodge, and then it would jump into the attack animation, it would stop the dodge, and it just felt like the dodge. Excuse me. Felt like the dodge wasn't working, and that was a no bueno. So if that's the case, I'm changing the state to 4, which would be the same as 1, 2, 3, 4 as attack. So yeah, so this would probably just make more sense, make the code a little bit more readable. So once this fills up, we're in the attack. So we're going to pop into our change state. We are going to check if we have a current state and exit it. Nothing ever happens when we exit a state, I don't think. Yeah, exit nothing, walk, exit. Oh, when I exit walking, I set is move and is dodge to false. I don't know why. I don't know if I have to do that. Let's try passing and see what this does. I can walk, I can shoot, and I can roll. Oh, that's why. Okay. Yeah, it's got something to do with that. You know, sometimes you just do things and it works. So yeah, we're in dodge. No, we are in state manager. We've attacked. Now we are setting our animation to our attack. Bingo bango. Then we're coming back into our enter state. Does attack have an enter state? Yes. Same thing. I don't think I need this. I do need this. Oh no, it doesn't do the thing that I wanted it to do. This is what I was talking about before. So I'm going to lie to you, and we're just going to say that this is all on purpose. And then either later in this video, I'll make the changes and come back to it, or I won't, and then I'll maybe talk about it later or never again. So same thing, we have a duration. I'm setting it on enter. I am almost emulating. We're gonna do this. It's just better, more better. This is kind of what the walk function was doing. Moving is moving. Yeah. So I'm actually not using is moving in this at all. I should probably be fine to get rid of both of those. Get rid of that. Let's see. Are we still able to walk and talk? Oh, look at that. All that extra unneeded code. So we are just checking our condition and our move, and we're in here, and we go, bloop, what's our move vector? Current state.move. We are in attack. It's just we're allowed to move. That's it. We're ignoring the dodge. I don't want to be able to dodge out of an attack. If you're in an attack, you're just that's all you got going for yourself is you're moving around. You got to be in a walk state to be able to trigger that dodge roll. This is what it used to do. I used to look into the animation manager and check animation frame and then check the length of the animation frame that I had because I'm handling all the animations myself because I don't know. I chose to do it that way because it's actually kind of neat. We'll get into it, but I was waiting until I'm at the last frame of said animation and then I would hop into walk or idle or whatever. That's why I was using is moving and I'll probably have to bring it back. So I'm actually gonna give future Steven benefit of the doubt and assume that I do need that. But that's fine. Right now, it's just going by duration, same duration, 20 as my dodge. So there's less communication back and forth than I thought because I'm not done yet. And it used to do this, and I stopped. Or I changed it. And now I was just frustrated because shit was broken for so long, and now it's working. So in our manager, this ends up being the only time that we're talking back and forth, is anytime I change a state, I'm changing the animation over to the new state. So let's close all these, save them, I guess. Animation manager. This guy, get rid of him, close out those, animation. We've got a base for our animations, and then we have all the others. Animation manager. Same type of thing going on, different case sensitivity because I'm nuts. So this one, lowercase, who cares? Same thing. This is just a mimicry saying we got 4 different files that we can read into, and I'm basing it on what point in this enumerator that I'm at, and we're going from there. From my player, if you do recall, boop, boop, boop. Put them at the bottom. On the ready, I am initializing with the self. So why are you here? That's why I clicked on that. Close that one. Close that one. On the player, the ready, we're initializing, we're sending the player. So this is looking at each of these. Oh yeah, this one's working a lot more like the guy in the tutorial I found. I finished all the state stuff and I didn't come back into this stuff. So I'm going to explain it more on how his is. It's pretty much the same thing. The base has a player instead of the manager having the player. So I'm just setting for each of these, essentially, well, each of these children, I am setting the player to be equal to the player, and then the animation to be equal to the player's animation sprite, so I can listen and get that information as I see fit. So that's fine. And then right off the bat in the init, we're changing our animation over to idle. So what does that do for us? Well, we're calling the change animation. Then we come to the change animation. Same thing as before. If it exists, we're going to run the exit script. I don't think any of these have one. They could. I don't remember anymore. And the current animation is the new one that we just set, and then we're going to enter into it. This is all happening before we get to our first process call, which is not being triggered from the player. Kind of how this was. This is just handling its own. I don't know if that's a good idea, but it works. So yeah, before we get to process, we're coming down into our animation enter. We are on anim idle. So we're entering. Now these do have enters. That makes more sense. We'll see when we actually look at the sprite guy, the sprite resource, or the animation sprite, whatever they call it. This is only for 2 frames, and I want 30 cycles between every frame, I think is what I did. And then if anim.animation. Oh, so if I have in my manager, if I've assigned the anim variable to the player's animated sprite, then I'm setting that animated sprite to idle. That's doing the actual switch for us, pointing, like saying to the player, hey, now point to this sequence of animations. Process is not running yet, so that happens down here. So all we've done is we've run the enter, and then do we have an exit? No, then nothing's going on. So we've entered, we set our length and our duration, and then we actually initialize our guy. Then we hop into our base and we enter, and that is setting the current frame to 0, and we're resetting whatever our animation time is. Those might not be the same things. I can probably rip some of this stuff out. We might talk about it at another point. Then animation update frame. This is kind of the goods. Animation frame is my local variable. We're setting it equal to I think I needed to know if it was even or odd. So I'm taking my current frame and I'm adding 1 to it, and then modulo the length. So my length was 2. If this was 0, it would now be 1 modulo 2. I think that's just, oh, because, all right, yeah. My animation length is only, there's only 2 animation frames for this. So I'm just toggling back and forth between those. And then I'm setting my actual animation frame to this toggle plus an offset. The offset will make more sense when we actually look at the images. But I think all of these work pretty much the same, but it seems everything I've said about the animation so far, I've been wrong about. So who knows? Now, animation manager, we run a process. If we have a current animation, we're gonna run that process at a delta. That probably doesn't need to be there, but we're gonna dive into to idle. We have a process, we have a delta. A delta is actually being used. Well, nope, it's just being passed down to the base process with a delta where it's not being used. So how about we just on the fly get rid of that, and we get rid of that, and we get rid of that, and we get rid of that, and then in this one I'm gonna have to get rid of it, and then this one we're gonna get rid of it. That guy can shut up. We can go in here and we're not even doing it, and then we're here, we can get rid of it. We're here, we can get rid of it. Neat, but we will ignore all of those. They never happened. We'll press play. We're good. We're walking. The function doesn't match the parent because my base. What? Yeah, it does. Maybe because I didn't tell it to be void. Is that what you're mad about? That shouldn't care too much. All right, you're still mad about something? The argument delta is never used. Oh, animation manager delta. Oh, that needs a delta. Well, not needs, I don't think, but it has one. We're just gonna underscore it because we're not using it. This is all gonna change because I don't actually like it. I'm realizing I did it wrong. That's okay. Now, if we are in idle and we are running that process, meaning that our animation manager, every frame we run that process as long as we have a current animation. So idle, running that process. I'm making, oh yeah, this was kind of shitty. I'm gonna jump back to this after we actually look at the animation stuff again. A little bit more important as to what's going on. So I only have an animation for attack, dodge, idle, and walk. But as you can tell, I'm moving in 8 different directions. I've got an 8-directional approach, or 8-directional animation for this guy. So if I were to like play my, why can't I see it? I want to see it. It would help so much to explain shit if I could just see it. It says it's playing. It's not. So I don't know what to do about that. Imagine that this is my idle state. I have 2 frames idling down, 2 down to the right, 2 to the right. Can I, well, why don't I do that? Oh, because I can't scroll wider. Then 2 to the top left, top right, and then 2 to the top left. So I've got 2 frames for each. But if I were just to play this animation set, I would just walk, like just do like 2 frames in one, and the character would just spin around, taking a 2 frame pause at each direction. That's what the offset does. When I'm walking to the right, my offset indicates that these frames are to the right. So I split my 360-degree opportunity of where I can travel, and I modulo that by 8. So I get if it's in a divisor of 8, pretty much, or like in 8 sections of that. That gives me the offset. So I know that if I'm walking down, I'm in the first chunk of that 1/8 of 360, and then I can just pick where I'm at, and I can just toggle between those 2 frames. That's why I chose to not use the features of Godot's animations, because I don't know how to use them, and I knew how to do this. Actually kind of helped me out, because now when I dodge, this is the only one that's a little different. From my sprite sheet, if I look here, player, assets, this guy. These are all 32 by 32, I do believe. Yeah. So this is how I got the sprite sheet from, I believe I got it on Itch, is it does all of the, here's all of the down animations for everything. So like here's my 2 for down idle, here's my 2 for down walking, 2 or 3 or 4, however many for attacking with a sword, which I'm actually including this guy in my bow scripts. That's stupid. I gotta take that out. That's the end of the attack animation. Is it? Is he holding an arrow or a sword? What are you doing? Yeah, it's definitely the sword. I gotta get that out of there. That's okay. But what I'm doing is when I made my idle, I just grabbed all of the idols for all of the directions, and that's what gives me this big long script. But what I did for the dodge is I liked this frame of the dying animation, and I just grabbed all these. But instead of only running the dodge for the direction that I'm facing, I just played through all of them, and he just spins in a circle. You can see that when I come up here, and he spins in a circle. See, look how friggin' fancy that is. That's how dodge works. That's how attack works. So now, something that could probably be extracted down into my base. If I go into my idle, when I run that process, here I'm taking my radiance to degrees, and I'm looking at the player's target angle of where the player should be looking. I'm getting the angle of it. I'm changing it over to degrees. I'm adding 180 to it because of what Godot uses as like your default, your 0 value instead of being to the right or to up or to, it was just 180 degrees off of what I wanted it to be. I played around with that a little bit. So that's just shifting my little circle around. And yeah, my animation point is my direction plus 30 because I wanted these to be in 30-degree increments, I think. No, that wouldn't make sense. I'm dividing it by 45. Fuck, I don't remember why I did that, but it works. All I know is I get to this point where I have an animation point where the modulo 8 is my 8 divisors of 360 degrees. So if anim point mod 8 ends up being 0, I'm going to the left. My frame offset is 6 times whatever the animation length was. And yeah, that just say I'm in idle and I'm going to the right. Then, you know, we're going to go down because that's easier. So if I'm going down, that gives me an anim mod 8 of 6 going down. So I'm making my frame offset 0 because I only want to toggle these two right here. So say I'm going down to the right, my frame offset is 1 times animation length, which is 2. So it's one set of 2 away, and there we go. We're now looking at those two. If I want to go to the right, it is 2 times those 2 pixels, so it's 4 pixels, or 4 frames. So it's 4 frames away, and then here's my 2 that I toggle for going to the right. If we look at walk, it's the exact same thing. Like my 2 down are the first 2 pieces, idle 2 down are the first 2 pieces, attack, it's the first however many. I think I got 5 of them, and you can see that I have that little sword animation in there. That's okay. I could, actually this would be, if I delete these, it's going to minorly break something, and then we'll fix it again. Get rid of all these sword frames. That's got to be a sword frame. There's no way it's not. I think that's how this is working. And then that one, this one, and then this one. Now we were at 39, and I took away 8 of them. So yeah, that's fine. So now if I go into my attack animation, up here I was saying that it had a length of 5 images because it used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but now there's only 4. Now this is kind of the problem. This is what I was thinking about. Now, if we go back into our state manager and I look at the attack, that's what this was doing. This was trying to wait until I'm on the last frame of the attack and then switch over, which that will work again. I'll get back to it. You can see now if we shoot the bow, there's like it's all so gosh darn hard to explain. Layer animation. Here, so he draws his bow, which I added 2 frames just so you can see a little longer. He shoots the bow and it wobbles the string a little bit. And then I'm going back and I'm drawing the arrow again. So you're actually seeing the arrow a second time after. So he shoots and that little blip. So that means that my duration for how long I'm in that animation state is a little longer than I want it to be. And instead of finding that balance every time, I'm just going to eventually make this work again. Where when I finish animation, I'm going to trigger back out of it, which means my animation for attack would eventually change my state. I don't know if I'm actually doing that anymore because, again, I broke everything. But that's in short, that's how it's working. Now they're all a lot more consistent than I thought. But let's look at the dodge. I do not do all this jargon, all that process jargon for making my offset for my dodge. I just don't use an offset, and I don't even care if it starts in the middle or at the first frame. It's just spinning really fast. So you're not going to tell what's going on. So when I'm in here, I say that there's 8 frames. I want to play 1 frame, 1 image per frame, and then I'm setting the. I don't think I need to do that anymore because I think I'm doing it somewhere else, but maybe I do. And then I'm setting it to dodge, and then we're just ripping. And then, as you'll remember from our state manager, after those 20 frames, I'm ripping myself back out of it, giving myself into an idle animation, and then carrying everything from there and listening to the inputs accordingly. So it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. But between that decently crafted state machine and that horribly unworked on, unchiseled animation machine, we got things. I can shoot things, I can collect things, I can dodge away, I can make iframes for when I'm rolling. Currently you can pick up gems while you're rolling. Maybe I don't want that to happen. I don't know. But we got a dope little game. I'm thrilled about Godot. This engine's really fun. I do want to eventually play learning some more Unity stuff. I haven't done that since university, but yeah, this is a blast. This game's fun to make. I'll keep for these videos. I'll put up the source code in the description. It's just gonna go to my GitHub. Download it if you want. The guy's video who brought to light this idea of a state machine structure, I'll throw that in the description, as well as the itch.io pages that I grabbed some of these animation sprites from. Free resources is an absolute blessing, especially when you are just trying to learn. I'm not trying to sell this thing. I'm not trying to make money off this project. I'm just trying to learn Godot and get back into the habit of making content to this channel, because eventually I'm going to make a bitchin' game and you guys get to play it first and give me ideas and help me build it. So that'll be exuberating. I don't know if that word can be used there, but that's what I want. It feels right. That'll be all for now. My name would be Stephen Gregory French. This is Let's Clone. I'm having a blast. Yeah. Oh, tell me what you think. After this project, if you got another game in mind you'd like for me to try to clone, go back to some tutorial stuff. I could do that. I'm understanding Godot enough. I could probably make something old. If I should do some devlogs on this, I think that'd be a good time. I miss streaming and I want to do that more. I've never really tried streaming on YouTube, so I could do that, or I could try streaming on Twitch. Link down in the video description. And just let me know. I want to do this because I'm aggressively unemployed and I would much rather make games or teach game development and yeah, make it happen. I love you all. Enjoy the hell out of your day.